Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of A Closer Look, the show dedicated to bringing you the facts. We ask the questions no one else will, and we get the answers that no one else can. I'm Arabina Apia, and I'm coming to you live from the Margaritaville Beach Resort in downtown Nassau. Thanks so much for joining us. In preparation for this week's episode, I had planned an entirely different opening monologue. But as the saying goes, man plans and God laughs. Just moments before the start of filming today, September 25th, 2023, we received news of the unfortunate and untimely passing of Minister of Social Services, the Honorable Obie Wilchcombe. As a veteran journalist and politician, his impact on the national landscape cannot be understated. Entering his career in frontline politics back in 1994, Minister Wilchcombe served as a member of parliament, a senator, and as a cabinet minister. His dedication to his constituency, his country, and his people has been unmatched. It is indeed a sad day for the people of Grand Bahama, specifically West Grand Bahama, where he served as the representative for many years. On behalf of the entire team here at A Closer Look, we offer our heartfelt thoughts, prayers, and condolences to his family, his friends, and colleagues, and pray for peace as they deal with this sudden loss. Now, at the time of this taping, Prime Minister the Honorable Philip Davis is en route to Grand Bahama and is expected to release a formal statement on the way forward. Ironically enough, Minister Wilchcombe's passing is set to have major implications for the political landscape as we know it. Today's show was meant to be part of our coverage on the upcoming resumption of Parliament and a dissection of the Prime Minister's recent cabinet shuffle. Now, in the face of the loss of Minister Wilchcombe as a sitting member of Parliament, cabinet minister, and leader of government business in the House of Assembly, even more changes are on the horizon. Not only will someone need to be given his ministerial portfolio, it will also mean a by-election in his constituency as well. Now, ahead of today's sad news, the Governor General prorogued Parliament, ending the 2021 session of the House. Now, this is certainly not the first time we've seen Parliament prorogued, and it probably won't be the last. In fact, in the context of Bahamian political landscape, prorogation is usually associated with a general election. In this instance, though, it merely signaled the end of the parliamentary session. As expected, the announcement, which was made from the steps of Parliament, set off a kind of chain reaction, a flurry of discussions and conversations about the state of our politics. All this right as the Davis-Cooper administration marked 2 years in office. It's been a busy and productive 2 years for the government, and now Prime Minister the Honorable Philip Davis has his sights set on building on that progress and driving new change for the remainder of his term in office. With the groundwork already laid, the Prime Minister's first course of action was to remix his cabinet. Parliament will return on October 4th, and when it does, it will do so with ministers having received expanded roles and new portfolios. The stage is set for some potentially impactful changes. In our two-part episode coverage of the reopening of Parliament, we're taking a closer look at the prorogation process and its implications for our parliamentary democracy. Later on, we'll jump into some political commentary from the perspective of two powerhouse former cabinet ministers who I'm sure you'll be excited to hear from. Stay tuned because a closer look begins right after this. The fun this summer is at Margaritaville Beach Resort, Nassau. It's the perfect blend of sun, sea, and sand. Families can play at Fins Up Water Park or the Icons Entertainment Center, while couples can recharge at the St. Somewhere Spa or indulge at JWB Prime Steak and Seafood. When it's time to chill, our oceanfront rooms are the ultimate place to relax. Summer vacation is waiting at Margaritaville Beach Resort, Nassau. Welcome back. You're watching A Closer Look. I'm Arabina Apia. Thanks so much for joining us. Tonight, a closer look comes to you from the beautiful Margaritaville Resort in downtown Nassau, where we begin our two-part coverage of the upcoming reopening of Parliament. On August 22nd, the Governor General of the Bahamas ended the current parliamentary session by calling for a prorogation of the House of Assembly. But what exactly does that mean? We sat down with Parliamentary Clerk David Forbes to understand what the move really means for governance in the Bahamas. On August 22nd, former Governor General Sir Cornelius Smith officially prorogued Parliament, marking the conclusion of the government's 2021 parliamentary session. This move, while not unprecedented in the local political landscape, has raised significant questions and sparked widespread discussion among political observers and the public alike. Historically, prorogation in the Bahamas has been closely associated with the calling of elections, signaling a shift in political power and direction. However, this prorogation stands out as an exception to that pattern. We caught up with Parliamentary Clerk David Forbes, who broke down the implications of the move to our parliamentary democracy.
So prorogation really brings to an end a parliamentary session. We're still on the 2021 session. The prorogation ended the 2021 session. So when you look at my records, you will not see a 2022 session. You will see a 2023 session because the 2021 session ran from 21 all the way to 23. What happens there is that everything that is on that agenda dies. All of the committees would have died. The session is completed.
In the weeks following the prorogation of the House, Prime Minister the Honorable Philip Davis announced major shuffles to his cabinet as well. The changes included substantive ministerial appointments for some and transfers for others. It's a move that Forbes describes as a reset of sorts and an opportunity for the Davis-Cooper administration to focus on key policies and reforms on the horizon. Looking ahead, Bahamians are eager to learn more about the government's timeline for the resumption of Parliament and what legislative matters will be prioritized when it reconvenes on October 4th. Forbes explains what we can all expect.
But once that date is set, we start choreographing the opening of the Parliament. That is actually a production. And you want everything to fall in place. So we start not immediately, but with good time. We start talking to all of the players, the Cabinet Office, the Royal Bahamas Police Force, the Defense Force, Ministry of Works, who are going to be, if you notice in the proclamation, you will have that Parliament is going to reconvene in the precincts of the Senate in Parliament Square.
Ladies and gentlemen, when we return, we jump right into our in-depth political commentary featuring two of the country's biggest political personalities. Stay tuned. We're back after the break. Welcome back. I'm Arabina Apia. You're watching A Closer Look. Thanks so much for joining us. Joining me now are two people whose careers have captivated the Bahamian people for many years. First is former Free National Movement Cabinet Minister Loretta Butler Turner, whose contributions to advancing the rights and voices of Bahamian women has left an indelible legacy. Joining me as well is former PLP Cabinet Minister and everyone's favorite potcake, Mr. Leslie Miller. Welcome to you both.
Thank you. I'm so glad you got away with calling him a potcake.
Well, I mean, he calls himself the potcake, so I feel like he's given us all permission.
I carry that with complete honor.
Okay. Absolutely. I want to thank you both so much for being here. We are here today on some sad circumstances. Having heard today the passing of Social Services Minister, the Honorable Obie Wilchcombe. He has been a longtime colleague of both of you, and I'd like to give you both the opportunity to share with us your recollections of Mr. Wilchcombe, the man, the politician, the person that you've gotten to know all these years. I'll start with you, Ms. Pollard.
Well, thank you. I first of all, I would like to extend heartfelt sympathy and condolences to my friends, his family members. I knew Obie for decades, from Grand Bahama days, his mom, his dad, his siblings. And I think my sister and him, who were contemporaries, they both started out as very young journalists at ZNS many, many years ago. So I've seen Obie in many, many arenas. And then, of course, I saw him mature into becoming the politician and statesman that he became in latter years. It is with a deep heart, a sense of loss, that I join you this morning. As I said to you, I actually was going to wear something else, but in honor of Obie's passing, and let us not forget also Minister Keith Bell, who lost his wife yesterday, I decided that I would want to wear some more somber colors. But Obie was an amazing gentleman, and my latest interaction with him was just watching him as he did what he loved to do. He relaunched the entire programming at ZNS. So despite his political achievements, at heart he was a journalist, and he always talked about that and how he actually went to prison for what he believed in as a journalist.
Mr. Miller?
These last few days were devastating for our Commonwealth. You had the passing of Minister Keith Bell, precious wife, who I happen to know at BEC when I was there as chairman. And of course, Obie Wilchcombe, a dear friend of mine for the past 40 years. We sat in cabinet together. I was Minister of Trade and Industry, and he was, of course, the Minister of Tourism. Very affable person. He was a cut from the same cloth as Sir Lyndon. I mean, he was like a caricature of Sir Lyndon. He's a wonderful human being. I'm going to miss him greatly as a friend. We just were together about 10 days ago, and we were talking about trying to get some things done in his ministry before the changes took place. It's just unbelievable. Most people I've spoken to all morning, in fact, over the Grand Bahama, every time they call me, they would just call me with tears. My daughter Yasmin, Leslie called this morning, and they say now Yasmin want to come home because figure something may happen to her daddy, and I tell her, be cool, the sport kick, all right. We don't die, we just fade away,
Aww.
But it's a hard blow for his family, his precious sisters and brothers. I trust that God would, I'm sure he's going to take care of him. Did a wonderful job as a minister of this country, made a valuable contribution to the lives of Bahamians and his children. Has 3 children, wonderful children, and people still don't believe it. I don't believe it. It's just one of those shattering news that you don't want to hear. But reality is, as there's life, there's death.
Yeah. And, just to add to that, when Leslie talked about him being cut off the same cloth as Sir Lyndon was Obie's political father and political idol.
No doubt about it.
And I believe that if there is one person in the Bahamas that probably could recite just about every speech that Sir Lyndon has ever given, it would have been Obie.
Yep.
He studied him intently, and he wanted so much to emulate the man. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, I fully...
It's just a pity that he wasn't able to write a book concerning Sir Lyndon and his years with him, because they've been so many places together. Yeah. He traveled his whole life, his whole career in journalism was being around Sir Lyndon and the other ones like Mr. Hahn and the others. We're going to miss him greatly. It's going to be very well missed.
And speaking of Hannah, he and Minister Glenys Hannah Martin they came up through Queen's College together. Yes. And, I think they've been lifelong friends.
And inseparable over the years.
Absolutely. So, we think about that as well.
Mm-hmm. I think as we celebrate Mr. Wilchcombe's legacy and the contributions that he has made, it is still for us to remember that the things that he left behind are still things that we have to deal with in our reality as we move forward. And so, ironically enough, these will obviously cause a lot of changes in the political dynamic and in terms of his ministerial appointment, in terms of what happens in his constituency. Having been in cabinet, both of you, what is next? Like, what can the public expect from the political side in terms of what is set to happen following, a tragedy like this?
Well, politically, I must say, I think that, first of all, everyone has to grasp the depth and breadth of this passing. It's a huge loss. The Prime Minister, as you know, has just recently realigned his cabinet. Minister Wilchcombe had just taken on some additional responsibilities in his portfolio. And for the Prime Minister now, it means perhaps looking back and determining how best to reassign those portfolios that were just bestowed upon Minister. So that's the first thing. Obviously, the party itself will have to come together and do a meaningful tribute to this gentleman. Dying in office is probably, dying is always difficult, but to die when giving service, I think, is probably one of the highest honors that one can do. So he was actively doing what he loved to do. And, he was in his constituency.
Yes,
he was with his people. And I think that, we must not overlook his devotion to that. His roots were from West Grand Bahama. He never departed from that. Politically, it's going to be a blow because, as you know, our Constitution states that positions can only be vacant for X amount of days. I think it's 60 days.
60 days.
Unless, of course, there's some extraordinary circumstance that can impact that. So that means that immediately the country is probably going to have to go into election mode. People are going to have to be trying to come to grips with the loss, but also coming to grips with trying to find a new replacement.
Let's talk about what happens in the event of a shuffle like we've seen, or how do you think cabinet shuffles impact an administration's term in office? How do you think, or what is your view on the way forward for an administration post a cabinet shuffle, and now post a loss like the one we're experiencing with Mr. Wilchcombe?
Well, the Prime Minister just 2 weeks ago did a shuffle with the cabinet. He rearranged his alignment with the cabinet and put certain people in different positions than they had before. And now with the shock of the sudden death passing of Mr. Wilchcombe, that presents a new problem. I'm sure this is very, very extremely painful for the Prime Minister. I was with him yesterday when he told me about the untimely death of Keith Bell's wife, and it really shook him up, and today is worse. He's in Grand Bahama now, I'm told, making arrangements to bring Obie's body here to New Providence. But all morning I've been getting calls from his constituents, and every single person that called me was crying on the phone. The women, screaming on the phone. They couldn't believe. They went to a funeral with Obie on Saturday.
Yeah.
They were together. They was having a meeting yesterday at 4 o'clock. They were supposed to have a meeting with him at the women's branch. And then suddenly they didn't see him. He was not there. And I think these things must have happened late yesterday afternoon. And it accumulated over the night. It's devastating. The Prime Minister now has to rearrange his cabinet. I know he's going to elevate another cabinet minister or just divide what Obie had, among others, which is normally the case. But that's a decision, a tough one, that he has to make again. It's very difficult.
A very, very difficult decision.
How do you see moves like this, though, impacting what ends up being policy? Because you spoke about maybe dividing the work, or maybe or reassigning or assigning someone new to that role. How does a cabinet shuffle, in your opinion, impact the way government is now forced to create policy, especially surrounding such a critical ministry like social services?
But policy is established.
Yeah, it's established.
And it's established at that cabinet level. So everyone within the cabinet would already be familiar with those policies. There would probably only be a shift in policy if the new minister comes up with a new concept that would have to be adopted.
Yeah.
But that is the whole purpose of cabinet, to establish policy. And those policies are then passed on to the permanent secretary, who are, the bureaucrats that actually get things done within ministries. So whatever was in tow will continue to be in tow until such time a new policy is developed.
Absolutely. Okay, so, and I guess this question is specifically for you, Ms. Butler-Turner, because a lot of the reassignments that we've seen have been for women who are leading specific portfolios. We've seen persons like JoBeth Colby, who's taken on a greater role, now responsible for energy. We've seen Pia Glover-Roll move from state minister to the substantive minister. As a woman in politics, how does that make you feel to see that the Prime Minister has reposed his confidence in these women? What does that mean for where we're headed as a country and the way we see women in politics?
So let me share something privately with you. Well, that I shared privately with the Prime Minister very early on in his administration, and I'm sure he wouldn't mind me sharing that with you. Having been a woman in politics and having seen what we would consider probably the injustices sometimes against women, when I was invited by the Prime Minister to become a consultant for the Small Business Development Center, I had an opportunity to sit and talk with him one-on-one. And I said to him, Prime Minister, I expect you, sir, to be the Prime Minister that makes women relevant, that you're going to be inclusive, and that you're going to do that. And I must say that he has been very impressive. And so I think that when you talk about the realignment, the shuffle, whatever word you want to use to describe, you look at the time frame. 2 years out, he would have had sufficient time to evaluate, assess, look at the strengths, the weaknesses of certain portfolios and how people performed, either reassign or elevate. And I think that is what we saw. They are doing a phenomenal job. I am so glad that the Prime Minister has as many women as he does in his cabinet, and he should be commended for that.
Absolutely. Well, before we close, I guess from your perspectives, both as veteran politicians, national leaders, seeing the way things have changed in governance and in government, what advice do you have to ministers who are now taking on new and expanded roles in governance, and what should the Bahamian people be doing to include themselves in the process of governance and really pushing the country forward as we continue?
Well, let me first say, politics is a very lonely vocation. People see you in the public eye constantly, and they think that you're having a really good time. They think that it's all, just prestigious and wonderful. The responsibility that one takes on, whether as an MP or whether as a cabinet minister, is immense, because you begin to take on the responsibility of every constituent in the first instance. And then if you become a minister, you take on the responsibility of that entire portfolio. Balancing that with personal life is probably one of the most difficult things in the world. I think the other thing is, when persons are elevated to this position, it's important for them to remain grounded, to maintain a personal life, but also to not become disconnected from their constituents, because you're not going to be a minister without your constituents. And that is key. A politician's work is never done, and a minister is never off. Even when they are away, they are always on. So there are big challenges.
I think most of the MPs need to appreciate that their job is to work for and on behalf of the Bahamian people.
Absolutely.
And failure to do so, they'll be a one-time politician. I've seen so many of them, both of us, over the last 40 years, serve one term and you never hear the names again. You must always bear in mind that the people who put you there are the ones who will take you out. And with the advent of social media now, Jesus, it's dangerous for them. I saw a post this morning that really was despicable to me. Someone sent a post really negative about Keith Bell and his wife. It's a destructive element in this country that bothers me. I advise all MP, go there, do your job, work for and on behalf of the people. And remember one thing, Bahamians don't vote for you anymore, they vote against you.
That's right.
They don't vote for you.
True.
Yeah.
And that stopped in '92 when Mr. Ingram was able to take the government from Sir Lyndon, God bless him, and he was able to serve 2 times. No one has served 2 times in 25 years.
Wow.
Very difficult.
Yeah.
I believe the Right Honourable Prime Minister now has an opportunity to do so. There's a lot of work to be done and little time to do it.
Yeah.
So they need to get the new posts they have, go and do your job, do it to the best of your ability, and never get your head so high in the clouds that you think you're better than those who you represent. They will show you on election day come 6 o'clock that you're no different from them.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you both for being here, for sharing your recollections of Mr. Wilchcombe, and for giving us some insights into, the way our parliamentary democracy functions and what Bahamians can expect. And I would love to have you both back after the new speech from the throne to dissect that, to discuss it, and really take a look at the Prime Minister's agenda for the country moving forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
We have more of a closer look after the break. Stay with us. The fun this summer is at Margaritaville Beach Resort, Nassau. It's the perfect blend of sun, sea, and sand. Families can play at Fins Up Water Park or the Icons Entertainment Center, while couples can recharge at the St. Somewhere Spa or indulge at JWB Prime Steak and Seafood. When it's time to chill, our oceanfront rooms are the ultimate place to relax. Summer vacation is waiting at Margaritaville Beach Resort, Nassau.
Out, guys, 1 minute out. And 3, 2.
Hello, everyone. Be sure to tune in right here every Monday night at 8 p.m. for another episode of A Closer Look, the show dedicated to bringing you the facts. I'm Arabina Apia, your host for this season, and I'll see you right here every Monday night at 8 p.m. on cable channel 212. Welcome back. My fellow Bahamians, our nation's political journey continues to unfold, and we are watching in real time some of the twists and turns that will become elements of the stories we tell future generations. Let's remember, however, that we're not just viewers. We are and should consider ourselves active participants in this story. Our voices, our choices, and our engagement with the political process help shape the narrative. We hope you'll join us for part 2 of this series, where we break down a brand new speech from the throne and analyze the government's intentions for the next 3 years. Again, we offer our thoughts and prayers to the family, friends, and colleagues of the late Obadiah Hercules Wilchcombe, a statesman whose unwavering dedication to the service of our nation has left an indelible mark on our hearts and in the annals of Bahamian history. Till next time, I'm Arabina Apia. Good night, everyone.